How's it going, guys? I am Folkerman, your local brick built historian, with another episode of Brick Built History. Today we are introducing, or I am introducing, the fourth brick designer in my little series here. This is by Plain Bricks. And this is an aircraft that is very near and dear to me because I have been working on this platform for the last 6 years. So I know a little bit about it. I've been working on the A-18E, which is the Super Hornet featured here, as well as its electronic attack variant, the A-18G Growler, which is what I currently work on now. So I have dabbled in both the fighter attack and electronic attack versions of this aircraft. And I have it in Lego. So let's see how truly accurate it is compared to what I work on. So this is built by Plain Bricks. It's not really a competitor of Brickmania because Brickmania does a lot of things. He focuses on aircraft, so like purely aircraft. And one thing I notice is that he has a different style. First thing is it's 1:38 scale, and he goes for more function than stability. Not saying this is an unstable aircraft, but it is a little more fragile than the other aircraft I have. Not saying it just automatically falls apart, but it is slightly fragile. But the very first thing is the box. So it's got 0010 there, the big Plain Bricks logo with the red star, 4 out of 5 difficulty, and you have a 3/4 profile shot of the aircraft with the minifigure, which I do not have because he was having trouble with his minifigure supply. So, oh well. A-18E Super Hornet, American multi-role fighter. It just got real. 1,739 pieces. And that's all on the box. I actually have to open it up to remember the name of the designer. Jonah Padberg is the designer of this aircraft. I've had this for a while and just now reviewing it. So because it's a little more fragile, I'm just going to leave it as it is here. But there are so many different little details I've noticed that he was able to get. So you have like the blast diffuser here on the front for the cannon. You have like this antenna here, which is we call it the pizza box, but it's the beamforming network antenna. You got the landing gear door. He even has a pitot tubes down here. You got the leading extension with this dark gray piece because that's where a mat is for extra grip. You have the danger triangle. You have the warnings here. The intakes, they are square, but not entirely like up and down square. But his technique to get the intakes the proper way is really, really good. The landing gear, you have the 2 wheels up here, and then there's the main landing gear in the back. The wings fold up and down, just like the Hornet. You have the trailing edge flap, aileron, leading edge flaps, and then the vertical stabilizer, which just broke because I was rough with it. You have the twin engines in the back. He even went as far as to put this antenna up here, which is a comm antenna. He even has the ECS scoops and what we call the grills, or the gills in the back. It's got a tail hook and lots and lots of stickers. In fact, there's so many stickers I didn't put the red trim on, but oh well. I got lazy. That's why it doesn't have half the missiles on it either, because I just got lazy. But it's a really, really cool plane to look at, and it's a little difficult to find a place to grab it because the wings, you have these pylons underneath, and over here you have the drop tank. So you kind of have to grab it from the back. Whoop. So you have to grab it like from the back and do it from that while holding on to the legs maybe. So it's a little awkward to hold. The canopy does come up, and it's got the ejector seat in there. And then put it back down eventually. Yeah, I'll worry about it later. But yeah, so a little more different than Brick Veteran or Brick Mania, but yeah. From there, let's go into the history. So the FA-18 Super Hornet is a improvement of the original FA-18 Hornet, which was originally part of the fourth generation fighters. It was a continuation from the YF-17, which was initially denied, and then whenever it became the F-18, it was eventually accepted. The F-18, or the FA-18, as its true designation is, means that it does both fighter and attack, or ground attack, missions. So it was basically designed to replace two types of aircraft, the fighter and the ground attack. And that's what it did. And today, when you look at the flight deck, which I've been on many times, you can see that it is all FA-18, except for the Hawkeyes and the Helos. But other than that, you have 4 FA-18 squadrons on the flight deck. And even though the F-35 is coming in to replace it, you can still see FA-18s on the flight deck. Basically, the entire flight deck. It was basically a good move for the Navy, because instead of having 2 or 3 or 4 different types of aircraft on the flight deck that you have to keep parts for in the on the ship, you have one type of aircraft, and that one type of aircraft shares all the same parts. Some of them are 2-seater, and some of them are single-seater, which is why this is the Echo model. The Super Hornet 2-seater is Foxtrot, or the F. And it was basically to make it really easy on logistics, which is a really, really good benefit. It would eventually go into the EA-18G to replace the EA-6 Prowler and make it basically a full FA-18 flight deck. So it was originally designed and made by McDonnell Douglas and Northrop, but McDonnell Douglas would be absorbed into Boeing, and then Northrop would become Northrop Grumman whenever they combined. So now it's Boeing and Northrop Grumman are the main proprietors of the F-18. The Super Hornet model was introduced in 1999, so basically I was 4 years old and these things started being introduced. So a lot of the aircraft I've been working on are almost the same age as me. Currently there's only about 608, and since they're still producing some, we're going to have even more of that. And they're about $66 million per unit. So they're not cheap, but they're not too expensive. Some of the upgrades between this and the previous Hornet is that it's bigger, basically. If you have this next to a baby Hornet, or a legacy Hornet as we like to call them, you'll see a few things, like this pylon station here would be not there. It only had 2 pylon stations. The engines were different, the intakes were different. It's generally smaller. There's a different shape of the Lex, of leading extension. There's a speed brake in between the vertical stabilizers. and other minor differences on the internals. The FA-18 Super Hornet is kind of slow. Uh, it says its max speed is Mach 1.6, but that's basically if it's completely naked and going down, like diving. It's not actually all that fast, and I've only seen it break the speed barrier, or I see it break the speed barrier, like whenever they do shows, but it's like, it's barely getting there. It has a combat range of 450 miles, but it has a ferry range of 2,070, and it's got in-flight refueling through a probe here on the right side. It has two F414 TAC GE TAC 400 engines, and as my enlisted aviation warfare specialist mind remembers, they are low bypass, axial flow, dual spool turbofan engines of modular construction with afterburner, basically meaning that it's a turbofan, which a turbofan engine is a type of jet engine with a low bypass, dual spool, and it's got afterburner, and it can be replaced. You can replace parts without having to completely dismantle the entire engine. It has 11 weapon stations, as we call them. You have one on each wingtip, which is a missile. They're missile launchers. Or on the Growler, there's giant electronic pods on there. You have 3 under each wing. So you have, these two are the same pylons. You have a smaller pylon here, which is a dry pylon, so you can't put these drop tanks on there. But you have 3 main weapon pylons underneath the wing. You have 1 pylon underneath the center line, and then you have 2 on what's called the hip, and you might be able to see the missile here. Usually there'll be a FLIR pod there, which is basically a giant infrared camera that shoots a laser. But it's got 11 weapon stations compared to the 9 of the Baby Hornet. So you got 2 more weapon stations, and it's also 1 more than the Su-27 that we just looked at a little bit earlier. The Echo model has, if I remember correctly, 14.3 thousand pounds of fuel in it, and then each drop tank adds 3,000 pounds, which is quite a bit of fuel in there. It's got 4 main drop tanks, wing tanks, only in these inner wings here, and then you can add the external drop tanks. It also has the ability to be a tanker, which the Navy does a lot because the Air Force doesn't like to fly their big tankers over countries, so we have to fly our own. But they would have 4 drop tanks, and then what's called an ARS pod, which basically looks like a drop tank, but has like a basket that comes out for refueling, which is nice. Some of the other things, it's basically the perfect Navy fighter. It's built specifically to be a Navy fighter. You got the folding wings here, which go up and down, either electrically or mechanically. You have a tail hook in the back. You have there'd be a launch bar up here in the front. It's just a Navy fighter, and some other countries do use it for non-naval purposes, though. I know Australia does, Canada does, which Canada's have a spotlight that goes off to the side, which is really cool. I know Germany was looking into it. Spain has some F-18s, but it's just all over the place for it being basically a Navy fighter. The livery on this particular model is VFA 143. They're based out of Oceana, or Virginia Beach, Virginia. It's basically the naval base near Norfolk, Virginia, which is the largest Navy base in the world. And they are known as the Puking Dogs because I think it was supposed to be like a griffin, but one of the commanding officer's wife said, "Oh, it looks like a puking dog," so they're the puking dogs. Some of the markings you can see here. You got VFA 143, which VFA stands for Fixed Wing Fighter Attack. If you look at the F-14s, they were VF squadrons, like VF-2, VF-122, stuff like that. And then the A-6, A-7s, so on and so forth, were VA. But whenever the F-18 came out, they combined them into two, or combined the two into one. So it's VFA now. This is what's called the showbird. So basically it's the pretty painted one. Some squadrons have better showbirds than others. But so you have like the VFA 143 there. The drop tank here has a puking dog on there. They have this like paw, like the scratch marks going down the fuselage. You have the stars and bars that are colored. You have the blue vertical stabilizers with the puking dog logo. AG is the carrier wing it belongs to. I don't know exactly which wing that is. I think it's might be 4 or 5, something like that. But then they have their puking dogs on the vertical, or on the rudders. The 100 here is the series of aircraft that they are in. So the FA-18 squadrons, you have the 100 and the 200 series are the same. Most of the time those are the two-seater Foxtrots. I'm guessing in this wing they're the single-seaters. And then the 300 and the 400 are the same, which would be the other set. Some of the other markings you see on here, very, very small. It says USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, because they put the carrier that it belongs to. Maybe if I fold that down. Yeah. So the carrier it belongs to is written right here above these engine bay doors. And then that's kind of really it. Fold that wing back up. But yeah, that's kind of the main parts of this aircraft. It's just a workhorse of a fighter, and you know, I'm trying to keep myself from talking about every single aspect of this because I know exactly what is where, what panel is where, what's underneath what, like how this goes, what's over here. Like, I know everything about this aircraft, and knowing, like, seeing it firsthand, working on it for 6 years, I gotta say, like, everything from the nose to what we call the turtleback up here to the shape of the horizontal stabilator, this is a really good representation of the F-18. And, you know, I gotta say, Jonah did a pretty good job. I am hoping that Cody will come out with his here very soon because I want to compare the two, and hopefully he puts my last squadron on there because he's also making an Echo. So if my squadron can be on there, that'd be a nice touch. But with that said, enough rambling. Great plane, a little on the expensive side. So if you're thinking that you want a cheap F-18, this one's like $800. So with that said, like the video if you like it, comment if you learned something, or if you want to see some other Brickmania, whenever I get new Brick Veteran stuff, when I get new Octoon Brick stuff, when I get new plain brick stuff, you know, and any other thing I might get. So if you want to see any of those, make sure you comment and you subscribe to see the video, and tell your friends. If you have a friend who's also interested in this stuff, might as well go tell them. You know, every view is helpful. I'm at like 140 subs, which I never thought would happen. So, you know, thanks a lot to you guys. But with that said, I have been Folkerman, and let's continue to build history.